Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Dr. Angela Colpaert here, nurse practitioner. I just wanted to get on today and talk a little bit about endocrine disruptors. I know we've touched on this before, but I think the new year is a perfect time to revisit as we're all implementing new habits and trying to fine tune our life to be our happiest and healthiest version of ourselves. Limiting endocrine disruptors within our environment, our personal care products, is an excellent way to do that. So let me give you a refresh on what endocrine disruptors are. They're exactly that. They disrupt our endocrine system. So endocrine system contains our hormones, our thyroid, and that whole system that is responsible for tons of different biological processes in our body. So as you've all heard us say many times over here, hormones are our batteries. So when those batteries are not put in the right place, are not functioning correctly, then our body is not functioning optimally. So the way that endocrine disruptors work, how they work in our body, why they're such a harm. In our body, our cells, they have receptor sites. They're meant for our hormones, our naturally producing hormones. All those hormones we talk about in our visits, our estrogen, our testosterone, our progesterone, and so many others. And those receptor sites are meant for those. And when those hormones are produced and they're met on our cells, our body can our body can do all those different biological processes it's meant to do. Now, when our body is exposed to different chemicals that are converted our body into kind of fake hormones, they go to those receptor sites and they take up those receptor sites that our natural producing hormones should be going to. So that limits the processes in our body, it limits the production of our hormones, and it doesn't allow for the homeostasis that our body needs to function optimally. So, some things that expose us to hormone disruptors. The first thing I like to start with when we're talking about endocrine disruptors in our environment is fragrance, because this is a very easy thing to eliminate oftentimes. Fragrance we find in our candles, we find them oftentimes in our personal care products, those plugins that we see all around the house, our air freshener in our car, all things that we don't really think about that are just really we're exposed to on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes if you're working in an office, sometimes they're there. So limiting those as much as you can. Oftentimes when we talk about this topic, it can be very overwhelming because endocrine disruptors are really throughout our entire environment. So I never want someone to go from 0 to 100. So fragrance is a very nice place to start because it's something you can physically take out of your home and throw away, or something you can look at your personal care products. And while we don't necessarily recognize all those different chemicals, you can see where it says perfume or it says fragrance, and just know that's something that you may want to swap out your next time. That brings us to our next topic, personal care products. That's a big one. Think about the things that you are exposing your body to on a day-to-day basis. So our face wash, for women, there's countless products. Oftentimes, we often use much more than men do, but even men, looking at your shampoo, your conditioner, your aftershave, um, generally speaking, you want to avoid fragrance in these products. There's lots of different chemicals that oftentimes are foreign looking if you're not used to looking at these labels. I like to use the Yucca app. Some of you are probably familiar with that. That one you can scan different food labels and personal care products. And then Think Dirty, that one is a nice one. You scan it and it breaks down the different ingredients in your products and tells you, is this good? Is this bad? And it actually breaks it down to why this might be bad for you, kind of delving into more what we're talking about today. So those are two of the biggest areas I would challenge you to look at. And the third, which I think is most obvious, is our food. So the food that we buy for ourselves, the way we process our food, the way we store our food, the way we cook our food, all of it matters. So taking it down to step one would be purchasing whole foods, growing whole foods, whatever you can to eat whole foods. That's going to make it the simplest for you because as you're buying whole foods, it's not packaged. The more you go to a packaged food, more processed food, you're worrying about what is it packaged in? Is it packaged in plastic? Then we're worried about BPA, phthalates. Of course, packaged food has its time and its place. We all live in a world where convenience is important. So just making sure you're making good choices. There's lots of packaged foods at places like Sprouts, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods that are in a cardboard packaging, or something I do personally if I need to buy packaged food is take the food out of the package and put it on a pan or a plate, depending on whether you use the stove, the oven, or the microwave. Just making sure you're never heating up plastic. That's a huge component. So that takes me to my next point that I've mentioned before. If you haven't gotten rid of your plastic Tupperware yet, now is the time. Get that glass Tupperware. I know we all got gift cards for Christmas. Putting those to good use, glass Tupperware is huge because that's the convenience of we store it in our glass. You can put it in the microwave. You can put it in the stove, making your life a little bit easier. The other thing when it comes to food is when we're preparing it. So when you're cooking food on the stove even, if you can, again, eliminate your nonstick pans. That one's a hard one because pans are expensive, but cast iron skillets are very often affordable depending on how big you go. That's excellent to cook your food in. Stainless steel. Those are going to be my two number one options, cast iron and stainless steel. Those non-stick pans, unfortunately, do have chemicals that, when heated, leach into your food. Like I said, you never want to do an all or nothing overhaul, but those are some tidbits that I would say swapping out. You're not going to see an immediate, wow, I feel amazing the next day. It's going to be a general thing. But just like any 2025 New Year goal, it takes time. It's not overnight. So being patient with ourselves, balancing our hormones, eliminating those chemicals that we're exposed to on a day-to-day basis is going to do wonders for your health, your happiness, and it's progress, not perfection.